Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One. It is Wednesday, December the 6th, the year 2017. Pivots and Mispivots Part 2. I got a little into it yesterday, and I took my eye. I didn't check the time, and I ran out of time. So that's why we had such an abrupt end. But let's see. Let's go and see if we can pick up where we left off, or maybe I'll backtrack just a little. We're looking at my real-time price analyzer, and what it's showing is how many times the high was greater than the pivot point, and we're using day over day. So last 87 days, the high was greater than the pivot point. The close was greater 53 times. The close was less 47, and so on. This means pivot point S1, that little halfway point between the pivot and S1. That's how I designate it in this indicator. And so you can see we had the low was below S1 62% of the time. And the close was less than S1 only 20%. So you can see here we've crossed below the midpoint between S1 and the pivot, but we haven't crossed below S1. So how does this help you? Well, for example, if you go short at S1, this tells you 62% of the time there should be opportunity to make money. But don't hold the trade till the end of the market, because chances are you only got 20% that it's going to close below it. So this is how you can use this indicator. So let's go back here once again, pivots and mispivots, and let's just take a look at what's happened so far with the euro. Well, we can see here it broke out of the wick zone. The low was 118, so there was an opportunity to pick up what, 7 or 8 pips maybe. Nothing to write home about, but hey, every pip counts. But if you notice, remember the yen had a gap to fill, and it filled it. And as you can see here, if you've been watching the videos, some of these other gaps are filling. And it's only Wednesday, so we still have some time to fill some of these gaps, though it doesn't look like this euro gap's going to fill, but hey, anything can happen. So let's switch over, look at the daily. Looks like maybe I should put the market price indicator up here, even though we do have the same information here. That's why I didn't put it up there. So you can see here today's low didn't quite go below yesterday's, but we came into the wick zone. We shot out of it into the body of yesterday's candle. So there was definitely some buy zone opportunities there. And speaking of which, there they are. Right here, looks like that would have probably been a stop out. Once again, you're not going to win 100% of the trades, but if you came back here the other way, there's opportunity to make some money. And then here was another one, quick. But you see here, you've got lower highs. So this one stalling was probably an indication, hey, take those 2 pips off the table while you can. And here, there was a chance, and then it came back, gave you another chance. On the way back, you should have probably been thinking, let me just get out of here. This almost hit the zone. Probably the ask was in the zone, so you may have taken a hit there. If you were a little anxious, here we have a opportunity to make money once again using the buy zone. And for those of you who wanted it, I put the copy of the buy zone, TRO buy zone, out there where I post my indicators. The reason why I don't mention these things is because since I post these videos on, I think, 4 or 5 different forums, I don't want them thinking I'm promoting another forum. It's just such silly rules. I mean, it's the internet, guys. I mean, so what? You talk about somebody else's forum? Are you have that little confidence in what you're doing that you want to, you know, tell people, oh, they have to stay here, don't talk about other sites? Because, you know, I guess, you know, that's one way of looking at it. I guess from their perspective, it's almost like going to church. You don't go to a Baptist church and start talking Protestant stuff, you know, or vice versa, or Mormon or Seventh Day. I guess you kind of talk the whatever their, you know, whatever that religion is. But, you know, this is trading. It's not religion. Are we forming cults or what? You know, so there's always more than one way to look at things. So I try to see it from the other guy's perspective, but sometimes even after I see it from their perspective, I still think their perspective is silly. I mean, hey, but it's up to each person. It's their turf. They get to make the rules. If they want to make silly rules, so be it. So there's some forums I'm just not posting on. Their loss, not mine. Okay, and you can see here there's not much separation between the rat zones. So when you have this kind of action, there really isn't much action. Though you can still, you know, look for these type of reversals here off of the highs and the lows of the day. They will happen. It's just no sooner than you get out of one zone, you're in the other. So you have to start thinking about going the other way. It's just a low volatility day there. And then back to the pivots, kind of the main point here. There's that future pivot point. You can see price is trying to hit it. Once again, either the top or the bottom was yesterday's midpoint. So then we basically do the mirror image on the other side, and you get this zone right here. And as you can see, it's another zone that price usually leaves. So with these types of trades, these horizontal line trades where you plot these lines, and once you plot them, they stay put for the rest of the day, or actually for eternity, for that matter, because yesterday's high or low is not going to change. No, that's just the way it's going to be. It's whatever. This number here, yesterday's high, you know, 2 days from now, this number is going to be the same, because that day's high, it's history. So we can use those levels on a regular recurring basis to profit from. I'm trying to remember if there's any other question floating out there. I just remember people were asking about the indicator, because in the old version I did not plot the weekly open. Say about pivots. You usually, if it hits R1, then it has a tendency to want to come back. If it hits R2, then it wants to come back to R1, or at least the midpoint. A lot of times it might go a level to a midpoint and back. Let's see, which chart would show that easier. So many charts here. Well, let's see here. Okay, we've already taken out today's pivot. Oh, and by the way, this is the last 100 bars, so these numbers are different from yesterday because we've changed days. So it's just looking at those 100 bars. That's why these numbers have changed slightly. But you can still see you've got over 70% chance of success taking the fading the pivot from the open. So in this case, let's see what happened. We opened below, so we faded long, and then it came back through. So if we look at it on this, let's see, on this chart, that's the future. There's the pivot. And this one doesn't draw the lines because it's statistical. Let's see, do I have my, okay, we can just look here, make it a little bit wider. So here we have the open. The pivot was only 8 pips above it, but fading that pivot, hanging in there. There you go. So you see it worked. Now if you just jump right in from the open, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. You could have taken some heat there. Or maybe you didn't trade the Australian Open, you waited to Tokyo, where that's where they really do like to hit that pivot. And so you see here it went up and came back down. That's kind of obvious, right? But once again, using the H1, you could have played the price action, red, green, green, take the break of that high. That only would have been good for what, 3 pips, 4 pips at the pivot, but it continued, so there was a chance to put a few pips in your pocket there, at least 10, maybe a little bit more. And you can see here, red, green, take that break. You'd be up 3 pips at the moment with the potential of what, 14, almost 8 or 9 pips maybe you could have profited. We did have news coming out this hour, the ADP numbers, the Wednesday ADP numbers, but it doesn't look like it affected the euro much. And we've gone over this in yesterday's video, so hopefully I answered questions about this. Wick zone, entered the lower, exited the lower, entered the lower, exit, exit. Once again, some small pips in your pocket there. Not too shabby. We've already gone over price action on the other chart. And as you can see, oh, this is the yen. Let me put it back to euro right there. Once again, here we go. Put in a 3-ball, red, green. Take the break of the high. Green, red. You could take the break of the low. Or green, red, take the break of the low. Red, green, take the break of the high. Green, red. There was a break of the low. Just pure price action there. And you can do this on the hourly, the 4-hour chart if you like. As we wait for the data to load. And you can see here, same thing. You can do it on the daily, weekly, monthly even. Speaking which, for the month, we can see here at the euro is down for this month. Down 2 weeks in a row, down 2 days in a row, down 2 H4 bars in a row. So that's it. As always, traders, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. TheRumpledOne signing off to drain the banks.